Let's talk about it. I'm listening, baby. You've been working all week. It's a 9 to 5. So won't you join me in my happy hour? It's so labor, so stressing out. I'll listen while you speak. I won't make a sound. Trouble don't mean work it out. We will be carefree. My time, let's be free. Together, no matter, am I on my happy hour? Am I on my happy hour? Oh, yeah. Hey, am I on my happy hour? Oh, yeah. Trouble don't mean work it out. We will be carefree. My time, let's be free. Let's talk about it. I'm listening, baby. Am I on my happy hour? Yes, y'all. To the show, y'all. It's the host with the most. It's your life coach. It's your confidant. It's your friend. It's your main man, Andy Brown. I'm living large, and I'm excited about this particular broadcast today. It is Tuesday, October 27th. It's Taco Tuesday up in this piece, and we are 1 week away from the 2020 presidential election of the century, if you will. So, shout out to all my folks who early voted. I want to say big thank you to all who have been chiming in, getting some of this good game, and sharing the message. I'm your host, Andy Brown, and I'm excited to be here, man. This is going to be another wonderful broadcast I'm hitting you with. Be sure to follow me on many multiple platforms at Andy Brown Speaks, which that would be Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and even Twitter. You heard me? So pay your phone bill, folks. Be sure to enlighten, be engaged, and listen up as we dive off into this each and every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on this online platform. I'm excited again. I can't believe that this platform is really growing. I'm thoroughly excited that people are sharing this and that you are actually spreading the word, giving some insight, giving some comments, giving some love, and being appreciative of what we have to offer. Again, you make the show what it is. And I definitely want to thank you all for being a part of this wonderful journey that we're taking together. Not just me, but together. So again, every Tuesday and Thursday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be right here to go ahead and put some good game in you. And you can call into the show, man. Give me some flavor if you want. 847-47-I-LIFE is the phone number. Again, 847-474-5433 is the call-in number. Giving good cheers, man. I don't know what's going on with this weather, but I'm not really thrilled about that for real. I'm in the greater Kansas City area, and it freaking snowed on your boy. Yeah, like Halloween is coming up. We ain't got there yet. The turkeys haven't been carved for Thanksgiving, and we haven't put Anna's gift up under the tree, but I don't even know why the snow is here. I may have to get back down to the Tejas in the Lone Star State and get myself in position for that. But trust and believe when I say we got a good show for you. I'm excited. So without further ado, let me go ahead and put the disclaimer out there. The thoughts and ideas displayed here on the online happy hour do not reflect those who are on this platform per se, but what it does reflect are those who are willing to give their information, drop some insight, and share some knowledge as we talk about this wonderful topic. And today's topic is going to be talked about and concerned in dealing with the split, a house divided. Right down the middle. What's going on, man? We got Democrats over here. We got Republicans over here, and they're sharing the same bills. They're sharing the same utilities. We got liars on this side. We got truth in the matter on this side. We got different viewpoints of how these children should be raised in the classroom, and we definitely need to open the door up about how our relationships are unwinding and unraveling. So, without further ado, let me bring on one of my good friends and colleagues. I've been knowing this brother for quite some time, man, since the year 1995. My frat brother, I love him to death, man. He's doing some wonderful things out there in the loop. Got to bring him on. The good brother, the good doctor, Mr. Etoya White. What's going on, fam? How you doing?
And go my Fred, how you doing, man? I'm grateful, man. I'm
Good,
to be on.
Good. Welcome to the online happy hour.
Man, it's a blessing, man. I'm excited about it, bro. I've been peeping from a distance for a long time, so I'm glad to finally be a partaker of your grace, bro.
Well, cheers to you, man. I'm gonna have some fun. We're gonna lay down some game. We're gonna talk some truth. We're gonna hear from the chat room, and we're gonna express to the people about what's really going on when I talk about this topic, house divided.
No doubt.
Now, really, when I talk about what house divided is, some people are looking at maybe their mortgage isn't being paid on time, or they're not able to keep up with their utilities, or their house is just not in order. But we're looking at the church and the state. We're looking at the family and the friends. We're looking at the paper and the coins. We're looking
Right.
at, in between the sheets and off the sheets. We're looking at the whole gambit of this.
Right.
So we're going to really dive into this. Now, knowing that we're 1 week away from the election going on, and we got a lot of people who are trying to go Biden versus Trump, Republican versus Democrat, trying to go straight down the middle. It's something that we really need to open up this can. And before we even go there, you, sir, are you a registered voter?
I am, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be the first one in line, bro.
Okay, awesome. Have you had a chance to go ahead and cast your vote early yet? Yes. No?
I haven't taken. I do have my polling place is literally like 3 minutes, if that, probably 2 minutes from the crib. So I know exactly where it is. So I didn't do early, but I am prepared to go and exercise my rights, man. I'm excited about it.
Okay. So the voting aspect is there. You felt it. I'm going to ask a question that's going to really spark some interest here. But before I do, can you give the listening audience a snapshot of who you are, what you have going on in the St. Louis area, and what's more about how they can find you and follow you?
No doubt. Yeah. So I'm a licensed professional counselor, a clinical therapist. I have a private practice, self-branded private practice here in the St. Louis area, Etoya White Therapy and Coaching. I actually have a personal brand as well, the Etoya White Brand LLC, which houses my consulting business, my therapy practice, as well as my online mental wellness T-shirt and apparel store, which is blazing hot. It's called Theratees LLC, and you can find that at shoptheratees.com. That's shoptheratees.com. You can follow me on Facebook. Look me up by name. On Instagram, I usually work under my store handle, which is Thera_Tees.
Brother, you got a clothing line?
Yeah, man. I'm trying to do it big, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, listen. Every day above ground is a good day, man. If I'm above ground, that means I got a chance, and the chance is all you need sometimes.
There's some people I want you to connect with, and I hope they're going to be watching today. Shout out to my main man, Rob Mack. Big Rob Savage is tuning in and giving some time. Shout out to my man, Dennis, all the way in the D-Town in as well. So we're going to be talking about some stuff, man. I really want you to elaborate a little bit more on that clothing line you got, because there's some people out there with this cold weather. They probably need to stay warm and be wrapped up on it. So let's kind of open up this subject matter, talking about a house divided, right? We're a week away from the election, and we've got some insight on what people are doing, what they're not doing. It's been a big ruckus all over social media. You've seen it with the debates going on. From your perspective in the St. Louis area, and being that Missouri is a red state, where do you see the shift going based on what you've seen on social platforms so far?
Man, I mean, it's such a crapshoot. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, it's for us, right? For people in and from Black and brown spaces, it's just, it always ends up being it always gives us a look at some core issues, right? The things that happen in the political context, it comes to, politics, religion, spirituality, economics, or whatever, how education wise, always come down to, core issues, in our community, right? That are the result of, historic and systemic issues that result in dysfunction, man. And unfortunately, it's going to take us, right? Obviously, we didn't cause the problem, but we're going to have to be the ones that solve the problem with regard to alleviating some of these dysfunctional issues, man. So, yeah, absolutely. And we see this. And so we see now these different dynamics at play now with regard to having Kamala Harris and some of the issues, there, right? Just kind of from a reputation standpoint, what was going on in California, not being able to research and get facts and make informed decisions about who she is as a person, what she did professionally, what her role was, and then how that translates to, her as a vice presidential candidate, man. And sometimes we just don't, it's easier to read headlines. It's easy to read memes. It's easier to go follow clickbait and all that different type of stuff, as opposed to just going to get educated, getting the right information and making informed decisions.
It does. You're absolutely right. So you talk about those memes, and here's where a lot of things get really tricky, right? We see stuff that is funny, it's entertaining. A lot of it may or may not be true, but it can sway the way that you're thinking about voting on a whole different means. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt, no doubt. I don't think there's any question about it, because again, if you're a person who's not typically informed in that space, like if politics is not your jam and you finally decide to do something, you're you'll probably go with whatever's trending at that particular time, again, and not being in a position to make an informed decision that's based on fact. So this is for the people who the my vote doesn't count people.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like when if you whether you decide to do it or you don't, right? There's 360 million people in the United States, whatever percentage are registered voters. And it's that kind of thinking, that my vote doesn't count, right? That is indicative of just not doing research, making informed decisions. And sometimes it's not about the vote counting, it's about the empowerment that happens. It's about the energy that gets generated in the community, and being in agreement with your own people. You know what I mean? Being in agreement with your own community about progress that needs to be made, about issues that need to be addressed, and having a seat at the table, right? You disqualify yourself from having a seat at the table when you don't, you know what I'm saying? When you don't do that, whether you feel your vote counts or not, it's about having a seat at the table.
It is. Completely agree with that. A lot of times, man, we don't really come together in our own communities. And this is not necessarily a racial thing. It is just about what it is in the community in which you're living in, whether you're paying your mortgage, you're paying your homeowners association fees. You all say that you want to live in this particular area, but when it comes down to actually understanding and putting things together on the same platform, you don't want to agree. So your house is divided based on your neighborhood, based on your county. I mean, this thing stretches. It really does. And there's an issue that I want to bring in. Shout out to my main man, the resident Dr. JR. JR's on the line. What's good? What's good, fam? How you doing?
Man, what's good, man? Just maintaining in all this ice here in OKC.
So you got pretty much bad weather down there too?
Oh yeah, a lot of ice. Been icing since yesterday, and a couple of surgeries got canceled, but we still grinding.
Yeah, I hope you washed your hands.
I did several times actually. I just can't. I'm not gonna tell you exactly what I just finished doing, but
Yeah. JR, I got on the line my man JR, the resident doctor, one of the great co-hosts of the Online Happy Hour. My main man, my frat brother Etoya White is on the show with us today. You can't see him because you're calling in, but we're talking about.
I can see him. I just don't have y'all on that tuned in. I'm on the phone.
Well, shame on you, brother. We appreciate it. This is what I wanted to bring in because Etoya brought this up, regarding with the house divided in the community, right? We're talking about all different aspects of this. So we're looking at your family, your neighborhood, your finances. We're going to touch into all these different things while the time permits on the platform. But check this out. If you have people that are in your own neighborhood, right? And we're not even growing with the same mindset of how we need to grow our community. Don't you understand, folks, that just by the instance that you say, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be a part of that. First of all, what did you move there for? And second of all, do you realize, man, that you can bring the property value down in your entire neighborhood just because you don't agree or fall in the same plan?
Yeah, I get that because I think that's one of the things today that was so different from back in the day. Probably when I was growing up, the neighborhood was a real neighborhood.
Mm.
When people talk about it takes a village to raise a child, we had a village because those older gentlemen raised all of us in that neighborhood. They watched out for all of us in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You went out of town on vacation for a week, your family, guess what? They got your mail, they cut your yard, even though our dogs is mean, but they even took care of the dogs. You see what I'm saying? See, that's not like that no more because we don't even know our neighbors no more.
No. You're not knowing your neighbors, and you're not knowing what that community is going to bring and what you can actually do to empower. We're not standing, man. The house is divided. E, what you got to say about that?
I mean, right. So it's a little bit different for me personally because I literally saw that. So as a middle school and high school student, I was a part of the voluntary desegregation of schools in St. Louis. And so what I saw and experienced was the systematic destruction, the systematic dismantling of our neighborhood, right? And when I say that, I mean that literally because, growing up on the block, we all, ran the streets together, hung out, played or whatever, went to school together. But then when that program came along, literally my friends on the block that lived directly across the street from me were zoned for different school districts. They went to different school districts. They got whatever it mattered. You know what I'm saying? We went to different school districts. Even in my own house, in the school district that I attended, my brother, based on again how he came into the district, lottery, whatever have you, my brother and I attended different high schools in the same district at the same time. Right? What we have is now we're all, as opposed to us being outside together, going to the bus stop, going to the school and building this community and building this camaraderie, we're all taking we're all going out to these different suburbs or whatever have you, to these communities that we're not a part of, we don't live in, we don't have agency in, we don't have power or presence in, and that don't remember us after we're gone, that don't even, don't even acknowledge the fact that we were there after we leave. And that's what happens to our community. That's what happens to our neighborhood. So there's no loyalty, right? So there's no coming back and supporting the people who are supposed to support and pour into and be a community partner for the local high school, where their school is 40 minutes away because they caught the bus or whatever have you, community that they're not a part of. So how do you build that camaraderie in the neighborhood that you grew up in when you go get educated and you do whatever else, 40, 45 minutes away? You can't it's not realistic to have that anymore.
Man, you saying something right there, man. You hear this, JR?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, my God. So even if you look at it, man, we're dividing the education and the platform in our own home. You sleep in the same room, but you're getting a totally different education based on the needs and desires of what that particular individual may have. Now, I didn't particularly go through that. I understand that people did, because I think that is what begins to, if we will, kind of dismantle some of the schools in the area. In the greater Kansas City area where I grew up in, you would see people who normally wouldn't go to suburban schools all of a sudden getting bussed out. Mm-hmm. You're not even, you have to, put your address down at, your cousin Keisha's address, or, your address. You're using their address so your son go to school.
Yep.
Just because you want them to have a quote unquote better education. And if you're starting at that high school level and your house is already divided that way, God only knows what effect it's going to have on that school and everybody else that's going there.
Facts.
Woo! Real talk tonight, man. 847-474-5433. Talk to me, JR. What's happening?
Hey, not too much. Just got called back into surgery, so I'm going to get y'all back when I can.
Ew, that's nasty. Wash your hands, brother. Always good talking with you.
All right.
Shout out to my main man, JR, man. He's making time. And this is the cool thing about the online happy hour, is we can live our life. We can do what we do, but still come together and chime in no matter where we are, what we're doing, It's just a part of our social economic status. Later for the whole, man, I got to get home and I got to, take care of my stuff and get myself settled. We're in a cyber world now.
Yeah, no doubt. Makes it easier. You have fewer excuses to not be involved and to not be doing something, right? There's too many ways to accomplish it now.
A lot of times with that, when we talk about a house divided, the mentality of what goes on inside that home, because I want to stay right there. That's really where a lot of these issues really start. We're divided in our own homes. So we got this election coming up, which is exactly 1 week away. For those of you who have not voted yet or have not registered to vote, I don't even know how that doesn't happen. But you have some people who are in the household who say that it doesn't matter to me who the president is. It doesn't matter to me who my local congressperson is, as long as I see some change. And then you have somebody on the other side who is just, rah all for the fact that there's going to be change, but it might not be the kind of change that you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it gets nasty.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it totally gets disgusting. And now the person that you sleep next to, you looking at them funny, not because of what they cooked last night, not because of what they wore to work, not because of how they made you feel, in the bedroom, but because of a political view that they have of how it affects your home and your community. House totally divided.
Yeah.
Real spit.
Yeah, man. I think that's we talk because we don't address these things early enough, right? And with regard to establish an agreement, right? Can two walk together unless they agree? In the Bible, Amos 3:3, which is the cornerstone of relationships, man, is being in agreement. And we just bypass so many things that are critically important, and they don't become important until they become important. And they're not a part of those the building blocks, right, of the relationship. And so again, in establishing agreement, what does that need to look like? What's important to those individuals? And to say it's easy to make a statement like, I don't like what you just said with regard to not caring about who's in office or whatever, however you just want to see change. Well, if you're not really tapped into like a purpose-driven life, if you're not living your highest excitement, if you just if you just on some BS, I was finna cuss. You gotta let me know if I forgot to ask you because I got a tendency to cuss and I don't want to turn God's people off. But
I'm fucking. It's totally up to you if you want to control it. It's all good with me, brother.
Listen, so the reality of the situation, man, is like, if you're not tuned into some level of purpose and what you're trying to do in your life, it's easy to make fucking excuses instead of making adjustments, right? It's easy to do that. It's easy to pass the buck and deflect and project that on other people or those deficiencies or whatever have you, or your unwillingness to address and change certain things, right? Whether that is your own core beliefs, right? And we understand that's culture, right? And core beliefs are difficult to change.
Right.
But at some point, you got to realize that the way you've been doing things and the way you've been thinking aren't working. But that's the power of core values, because when somebody presents something that's different to your core values, the first thing you're going to do is reject that. Your automatic thought is to reject that because it doesn't sound like what you believe.
Mm-hmm. You put it away, man. When you reject it, there's nothing that says that I want to come together and I even want to hear what you're saying to me. Mm-hmm. We totally dismiss that. And I think even as a culture, man, and again, culture is just the way people do things. It's not a negative. Don't bring the negative context of what culture is if you're listening for the first time. We're talking about a house divided. Mm-hmm. And when people reject that notion, you feel as if you can't question someone's interest in why they're choosing this particular individual.
Yeah. I mean, people feel threatened, I guess, or maybe their intelligence is being questioned, or their morality is being questioned, or whatever have you. But just like you choose I chose what cologne I was going to put on today, or whatever have you, right? Being able to provide rationale for those decisions. I mean, and stand on it. Be ready to stand on it. Be ready to the power of choice. You know what I'm saying? Decide your decision, but also be prepared to stand on it if somebody asks you a question. Otherwise, what's the purpose of doing it, right? If you're not going to be willing to educate yourself enough to defend your position, then you'll be left vulnerable, and again, be a placeholder for a lot of people. You'll be an employee, or you'll be, somebody whose bills, pay somebody else's fortune, or whatever the situation, right? Because you're not, doing it for yourself first, finding those connections for what's important in your life first, right? And then, using that as a springboard to serve the community and do other things, man. But if you do that outside of having a fingerprint of purpose in your own life, yeah, you'll be a drone.
Talking to my main man, Etoya White, out of the Lou, St. Louis, Missouri, over there across the way from the slip and the big arch. Yeah, I said it. I know about the Lou. I know about the slip. It's a fantastic place, but I know COVID probably shut that whole thing down for just a moment. We're talking about house divided, different things that are separating our beliefs and what we're doing within our community. So we talked a little bit about what goes on in the realm of the neighborhood. We discussed some open containers about the political aspect of it. I definitely want to be able to open up a little bit about the levels of relationships, because here's where the rubber meets the road, right? If you're not having a good conversation with your mate and we're not there on the same page, I have to go there. I have to open up that door. We're not there on the same page with them, then all hell and chaos is going to be broken loose, and your home is going to be uncomfortable. We're not even on the same page about dietary issues. You got this over here, cooking, fat bacon burger cheeseburgers and everything, and he's over here on this health kick. Now, how y'all gonna come together? Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Those are the things. All these are systems, man, and the systems that help. Our families run the same way. We sit down and we talk about. We have to be open about, finances. The same we have to be talk. We can talk about what we like sexually. How come you can't talk about, your political, views or whatever have you, right? Because that's a more difficult conversation to have, because you haven't gotten educated about certain things, and that's fine, right? Be vulnerable. Vulnerability is courage. That means it's time for you to try and learn some different skills and apply some different things to create some change. But that's all a part of agreement. And agreement is these systems that operate in the family or relational structure, right? You have to agree to how you're going to discipline children. You have to agree to how you're going to manage finance. You have to agree to how you're going to attend to and manage your spiritual life. You have to agree to, we're going to get a gym membership. We're going to be vegan. We're going to be vegetarian, pescatarian, whatever-tarian. It's about getting on the same page and making that shit happen.
So bring it back, man. Let me circle back the wagon real quick, right? Let's circle back the wagon on this discipline for these children. House divided. Okay. Dad says one thing, mom says something totally different. Back in the day, you used to say, well, if the child wanted to do a certain thing and he went to go ask mom, it doesn't really matter. Go ask your dad, see what dad said. Nowadays, you're having these situations to where mom and dad aren't even on the same page of what they want the child to do.
Right.
So dad can go ahead and say something. Mom totally disagrees. Now the child has a bit of a conflict because he doesn't know who to listen to. But chances are they're going to lean to the softer emotional side. And that in itself, what tends to happen with that is you tend to shun away the authoritative figure now. Because they're not going to give you your way. And that is an issue long term, because kids know. They know you psychologically, man. They know, look, if I want to get my way, I ask dad first or I ask mom first. I'm going to ask the one that's going to say no first and go right back around and get my rub down. I'm going to get my feel good. I'm going to get my nurturing from the other parent who's going to be on my side. And if they catch them in the mood where they're not be on the same page and they're battling, of course I'm going to go to the softer one, because guess what? Now I got leverage.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what you got there, man, is just, again, we're talking about agreement with how we're gonna doing that before, right? Because sometimes I'm not gonna. What I promise I'm not gonna do is spin this into faulty decision making with regard to having children. I promise I'm gonna stay away from that, right? Because we'll give ourselves to that level of commitment, but won't give ourselves to the level of commitment with what's required to raise those kids. So I promise
It wasn't effective.
I'm not doing that today.
Okay. Well, shame on you. I'm
Well,
open the phone lines up and get some people to chime in on that, but I'm listening to you, Doc. Go ahead.
yeah. But what I'm saying is, man, it's like, you know what I'm saying, understanding the importance of, you know, boundaries, right? When you set up these systems with regard to, you know, discipline or whatever have you with the kids, right? The root of discipline is to teach, right? And so when we set these systems up, you can avoid all this manipulation or whatever happens, which, you know, allowing kids into that space and giving them that kind of power interrupts their ability to form systems of moral reasoning for them, for their own selves and their own ability to emotionally regulate in an appropriate way, because they're allowed into emotional spaces that are above them, that they can't handle that, and we allow them into emotional spaces that are not age appropriate, and it fucks with their ability to morally reason.
Ooh, they can't handle it.
Nah.
Kids can't handle it. Let's open up this line, man. This is what I love. This is the online happy hour, folks. We're talking about a subject called A House Divided. My main man, Etoya White, is on the line, and I got to go back to the phones, man, and bring up one of my fan faves. I'm a big fan of her. This is my PR crush, if you will, the wonderful and talented Miss Nika Watkins. Hey, Nika, how you doing, babe?
Hey, and I got PR crush. That just made me blush. Ooh, I rhymed.
Well, welcome back, darling.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back.
Right on. We're talking about House Divided. I got my main man, Etoya White, on the phone line. He's calling all the way out to St. Louis, Missouri, that is, not Illinois. But we're having a discussion right now about House Divided. And maybe you can give us some insight from the female perspective, because we don't have that right now. So the subject is brought up about, you know, there's a child that goes to mom, there's a child that goes to dad. If they don't get their way, they tend to lean more toward the softer parent, the one that nurtures, the one that's going to give, the one that's going to cave into their needs and demands and make it a little bit easier for them to get their way, not realizing that could cause a bit of an issue between mom and dad in the household. Can you see that happening?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yep, definitely. I have a friend right now who's raising a little person, and I promise when I talk to her, her daughter is always trying it, and it's hilarious. Like, literally, we were on the phone, and it was time for her to go to bed, and so she comes bopping up in the room with my friend, and we're on FaceTime, so I see her, and of course, you know, I'm Auntie Nika. I'm not there, you know. I'm not in the household, so I don't really know how it goes, right? So I'm like, "Oh, hey, baby, how's Auntie Nika? What's going on?" And she's like, "Daddy told me to go to bed." So mommy like, you need to get up out of here and go to bed if that's what Daddy told you to do. Like, don't put me in the middle of it. You better do what you need to do, for real. Cause like that turns into something different.
It does.
She's like, I don't want to have that issue.
So he was kind of giving me some insight about this whole game, and he didn't want to touch on the subject matter, but I'll even go there.
Okay.
When the house is divided, it's usually because the connection should have never been there in the first place.
That's it.
Yeah. Sometimes we laying down with the wrong folks. The pull-out game isn't always what it is. I mean, in all honesty, folks, we're not giving ourselves enough credit to say that you don't want to experience an entire lifestyle with this particular person. No ill effect on the child, but that's just where it goes.
And it's not only that. I think the older we get, especially as women, like, we're relational. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you think about it, let's break this down. So with men, they measure success by their job, how much money they make, the kind of car they drive, maybe the house that they live in, sometimes even the clothes that they wear. Women, it's a little different. Like, they don't necessarily match us or make us successful based off of our career and that sort of thing. It's normally who we know, who we're friends with, who we're dating, who we're related to. And I can give you a prime example. I just saw a blog post had posted, what's his name, NBA player. He's dating Tia Cooper from WNBA. He's a Laker right now. I can't think of his name. Madra on the
Dwight Howard?
They posted him and her. Dwight Howard, yes. They posted the two of them. It was a blog, but the blog didn't mention that she was a WNBA player. It just said Dwight Howard is his fiance. And someone in the comments corrected them and was like, hey, that's not just his fiance. She is a WNBA player. Like, respect the fact of who she is. But that happens to us a lot. So I say that to say, because we are relational, or because our level of success is measured by if we're married or we have kids or, that sort of thing, we tend to be more desperate to be in the relationship because that's, foundations that have been built for us. That's like the perspective that people have, like we should be married or we should have kids, blah, blah, blah. So when you get into that realm, the older you get and you don't have kids or you've never been married, you feel as if you're less than. You can have the, best career like ever, like CEO of a Fortune 500 company, driving a great car and living in a big house, but you're still single and you don't have children. Like, people look at you funny, or we feel as if people look at us funny.
Wow.
Sometimes they do. Like, I have male cousins, and I can't think of a time when I've heard my grandmother ask them, when you gonna get married and have more kids? But my grandmother would ask me that. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you put that in perspective, we settle a lot. And we may be in a relationship with this person because we don't want to have to start over. We don't want to have to tell our friends and our family it didn't work out, so we're here. And oftentimes it's not fair to the guy because he may, be a better match for someone else, but we just kind of hold on because we just don't want to be a lonely loser that has to go with no man.
Well said. I mean, that in itself is freaking poetry. E, can you elaborate on that one, man? What are your thoughts?
That's poetic. You know what I'm saying? I think there's definitely some facts there, and I think that's rooted in. You were talking about, we talked about core beliefs earlier, and the reality of the situation is, as I've been discussing in some of my circles, man, is the reality that men learn how to lust before they learn how to love, and so we end up playing catch up in this relationship game because we're not emotionally wired to do or function the way that women do in relationships, right? So we're having to play catch up, and because we get these faulty messages about how to emotionally regulate, then again, it messes with our ability to morally reason in relationships. And so we don't grow up with value. If we don't grow up with possibility models, then what value can we place on the importance of relationships? And we don't see relationships being valued in the spaces where we grow and develop these core beliefs. We don't, that shit ain't in the Cracker Jack box. We don't get that out of the Cracker Jack box. You got to be able to experience that with some modeling because that's how we learn, because our brains are still being developed until the age of 25. And in those critical times, right, when we're vulnerable to reactive attachment disorder and some of the other things that happen because of absences and we're not making those valuable emotional connections at the right time, then we live a life of dysfunction until we figure out that shit don't work.
Ooh, y'all saying the mouth.
That was good.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? This is where we need to really have this true talk, this real information. We're a week away from the Democratic presidential nomination, Republican nomination, or even we don't even know who's going to get it. But we can't even come together in terms of how we even build with our own self to even be worried about bigger picture, bigger problems. Mm-hmm. Big time.
I'm going to ask a question to my sister.
There's a lot of, this is what my aunt broke down to me, and she touched on it. She said that when you get to a certain age, we all have trauma. We suffer from relationship trauma that people don't think about, and it's not just relationship trauma like girlfriend, boyfriend stuff, or ex-wife, ex-husband, but it's trauma within our rearing. So we have trauma from our parents or grandparents or cousins, and it's those are things that we don't necessarily talk about. So when you meet someone and you understand their trauma, then there's a possibility that you can formulate a relationship. But if you don't, it's like kind of like, I guess sometimes we try to force ourselves into it, not understanding it, and it makes it worse for that person. So like just say like, it's almost like pulling back the layers, and you get to know more of that person, and you're starting to feel it out. You think they should handle that trauma a certain way, and we don't know how to back off.
Right.
Like, especially as women, like, oh, he had relationship issues because he didn't have a great relationship with his mom. I can fix it. And our way of fixing it is kind of like forcing ourselves in, opposed to falling back and letting it, letting that person have that space. And then when they're ready to come out of their shell, it causes more drama, and then it causes a vibe, because over time, like, that person becomes resentful because you didn't allow them to have their space. You didn't allow them to feel whatever that feeling was. So they don't necessarily always know how to deal with it, especially when you're talking about romantic relationships. And it just blew my mind. I could call her and say, Auntie, tell me what you told me. Because it blew my mind, because I never looked at it like that. She's like, all relationships are basically is what you can handle. Like, if every woman can't handle, the same man that you want, or every man can't handle the same woman, that every other man wants. It's like certain people can deal with it and certain people can't. And if you find someone who you can work around, and not work around it, but work through whatever issues that each person has, or have it, then that makes a healthy relationship. But a lot of times, again, we try to force ourselves, like, we try to put a square in a circle or a circle in a square, and it just doesn't add up sometimes. You just have a house divided.
Yeah.
Years later, it's that stuff that you buried, or that you thought that you could deal with, that you really couldn't, and you could deal with it in the beginning because it was cute. And now, like, reality sunk in. You start seeing that the bill's due on the 15th. They pay it on the 15th, but you like to pay it on the 10th. Like, you start seeing all that stuff.
Yeah, I went through that myself. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, like, as a woman, right, I know those are things that now that I'm older, I think about, and those are conversations that I wouldn't mind having. Do guys have those kind of conversations?
Do we? You know what? I think guys have them later in life. Yeah. After the damage is done. We don't have it. We don't set the tone early, because that's not the objective. The objective is to get the draws and get the woman. But we don't set the tone early enough. It's what it is. We don't set the tone early enough because you have to go through the emotions. You got to get the emotions out of you. And if we're not leading with our emotional aspect, then chances are we're not getting that up front. Ian, your counseling, what have you experienced in that type of regard?
Yeah, man, no doubt about it, because we don't have that emotional framework, early in life, again, based on what I said before, having those possibility models and seeing that and doing that. Like I learned, you can learn a lot of, like, sometimes you figure out what you do want by process of elimination, right? By going through some shit and understanding, like, well, I don't want that. I don't want that. I definitely don't want that. Well, this must be what it is, right? Because that's what's like. I crossed out everything else. And if this is a multiple choice test, I already eliminated the least likely answers because I don't like this, or what, whatever have you, or like these particular qualities about a person. And then you end up settling because you're not as in tune with yourself with regard to your communication style, personality type, character strengths, love language, all these different things. You're not 100% assured of your own views. And so you don't bring those things to the table. And that's what kind of makes, little jellyback dudes, who can't maintain and sustain, in situations like that. Because, again, now then we can talk about faulty views of maleness, manhood, and masculinity. So women don't know what the fuck is it. They don't know what they got coming to the table, because men are confused about that basic concept right there. Maleness, manhood, and masculinity. What is that predicated upon? What defines what a man is? What defines what maleness? What defines masculinity? And in our own spaces, as men and boys enter from Black and brown spaces, we don't have a handle on that.
Yeah, man, that's so true. We have to identify that within self first before you try to bring it on, because chances are what you're going to do is you're going to cause more harm than good. You're going to find yourself in a situation where your car is messed up. You're going to find a situation where your Facebook and your social media has been blasted. And even more importantly, you're going to find yourself in a situation where your money's messed up. And you don't want to.
Man, one of the biggest conversations that I've been a part of lately, and Sis might be able to chime in on this a little bit, is this concept or this notion of protecting Black women. I've been involved in a lot of conversations in this space about Black men protecting Black women, and we can't fucking agree about what that means. What does it mean to protect Black women? What are sisters looking for? What's the expectation? Because on the one hand, some will be like, well, that's some old patriarchal shit. Like, we don't need Then there's the other side that's based on and rooted in where we typically come from as a communal people, and the fact that when we came to this fucking country, we needed each other for survival. And that's what protecting Black women is about. We can't even agree on that as a community. Like, what does it mean to protect our women? Do we claim our women in such a way that we need? Do they want to be claimed in such a way? Can women agree? Like, what? Sis, help me out. Help a pimp out.
Nika, you said something about that one time. It was many years ago. I think it was during the Obama administration. But you said something that was really keen to me that brought light to and I'll never forget this. She said that a man can only have potential for so long. I don't remember saying that. But you remember that? It resonates.
It was a book that my mother gave me. I gotta find that book and tell you the title of it. But it was like a breakup book, and basically it was like basically telling the woman, like, listen, in order for you to date, you need to figure out exactly what you want, and you have to be serious about, these things, but you also can't come to the table, what I'm saying, like, on no BS either. So don't be wrong. It wasn't like, hey, guys, you need all of this. I'm still a mess. So it's kind of like, strengthening your mindset for yourself, but also, for your partner. So if these are the things that you want, let's be reasonable in picking them, but also knowing that potential goes out the window once he becomes a man. Like, after a certain age, you can't be like, oh, well, he potentially could be, or he could potentially not. Like, at some point, like, certain people are going to be shitting with what they are. You know what I mean? So you can't expect them to be that based off of potential. Like, oh, they have potential to be like, okay, my child, she's 18, she has potential to be da-da-da-da-da. But I'm not looking at that same potential in I'm 45. So a man my age, like, you either you got it or you don't. And but to touch, to the protection of Black women, I have a story, and I right now listening to you, Sarah, it just like brought it home for me and made me understand why my friend was so upset. Ooh. So about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, it's like almost 2 years ago. So I was working a concert, the Wu-Tang Clan concert, right? So the crowd could be aggressive, and with that, security that was hired because it was a hip hop show was being kind of aggressive. The downside to it, or the upside rather, if you like look at it, the crowd wasn't even like that. It was really like a big crowd, maybe more white people than Black people, and it was love. Like, it was probably one of the best shows I've ever been to in work, because the crowd was just like, they just was there to see a good show. There was no, casualties, no weirdness going on or anything. But one of the security guards was being super extra. Mind you, this is my show. Like, I'm working this show. Like, I put, energy into it. I've invested into it. Like, this is not like, I'm not just a regular person that's just standing around, right? I'm working. This is my show. So, in front of the stage where they have the little, pit that they put the barricade off to block people off, so it was a little bit affected. So I had a professional photographer that was there and allowed to shoot. And as long as he was there, the venue that was used for the event was like, you have to be in the pit with this person once we clear all of the rest of the media out, the public. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll hang out while he's there. So instead of being in the pit where he was, I was just on the side by his feet, just watching him do his job, because I don't need to be in the pit. I'm here on the side. So this particular security guard is giving me shit, right? So a guy that I was dating was media, and they allowed him to to be in the pit with his camera running, but was giving me shit. And I had literally like the highest badge that you can have, like all access. I got this, that, da. This person just has a media badge, and so he sees me and the security person going at it, and I was like, dude, this is my show. Like, I pay you to be here tonight. Like, why are you in my face? And he literally was like in my face like I was a dude, like he was gonna fight me. And at the time, I wasn't upset. And my friend, she was working with me as an assistant, and she was pissed because she was like, "Yo, the dude that you sleeping with, like the dude that you in a relationship with, stood there and didn't say shit." And I'm mad. Like, I don't like him. I don't like that. Like, you're a black woman, and regardless of whatever the situation is, he should have at least, you know, like told dudes back down, chill, something. And in my mind at the time, I was thinking, well, because I was working, if he did do that, it could have escalated and turned into something else. But now I understand. My friend was just like, as a person that was supposedly your mate, he could have at least had your back, or, you know, made you feel confident, or made that dude think that at least there was someone there, you know, like to support you. And the even messed up part is, so like the show is going on, so it's not like nothing. Like literally, Wu-Tang is on the stage. So I know you guys have seen Wu-Tang shows, so they have like a lot of people on the side. So it was like their manager and people that was on the side, and somebody in the soundboard tapping him with a shoulder, like, "Yo, what's the deal? Chill. Like, why you?" They're not even going where we are. Like, not even right there next to the guy, like this person was that I was seeing. And he still didn't do nothing. So I literally had to leave out, go get the security manager, and have her come back and deal with him. And then I think it was like the venue manager. He happened to be there when I was telling her, like, "Can you get your dude? Like, we're paying him to be here, but yet I'm not the person that you're even supposed to be enforcing. And you see my badge." So they're like, what's the deal? You see her badge. So then they escorted him out, and then it was somebody that was working with him. As soon as they escorted him out, he jumped in my face. I was like, really? Like, is this what we're going to do? So it's all these people in this venue. And I'm sure there's people who are here that are doing shit. There's other people in the pit. You're looking at me. Wow. And that's when I get what she means, and that's a part of what we mean. Like, dude, you have to be in my face like that. Literally, this dude is, I'm 5'8". This dude was like 6'2", 6'3", really big. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be in my face like that. There's no reason for it.
They're doing that, man. These people here are like, it's a cowardly act because you were approaching a woman like that.
Yeah, that's all I felt. And you targeted me because I was a black woman. Everybody else that worked on the staff, to believe it or not, that worked that show, like, was white.
Yo, but how we end up having babies by these jellyback Negroes though?
How?
Yeah.
There's a sense of belonging and entitlement because they're in some type of authoritative position at work, and that's what they're attracted to. That is what they're attracted to. They're not attracted to what's inside the person. It's the shell. That house is divided. You're not the same person that you're representing on the inside as you are on the outside. So they're attracted to what they think they see. But once they get inside you, it's a whole different beast. That representative stands out a little farther too longer than it's supposed to, men and women, and you dividing yourself up. You can't even be the person that they think you are. So that's what they're attracted to. And you get a whole lot of things mixed up. And when you get involved, and that's what happens, man. When you actually see somebody, oh my God, I can't believe I'm dealing with this person. You keep going back to what you think they are, and they're not really that same person. So after the child comes, and after that relationship has been, still with that baby, now you can't stand them because now that inner person has now been revealed. This is real talk tonight, folks. Y'all gonna get this. 847-47, my life is the call-in number. Oh, I know we spitting hot fire tonight. E, is this true in your counseling?
I mean, in many ways, yeah, man. I think because people come to the table individually with so many voids or so many unresolved issues, that are the result of childhood-related trauma or whatever trauma of different kinds, man, and just not being sure enough about themselves, man, and trying to find completion in people instead of looking to be complimented. And again, because we have, from a female standpoint with our sisters, because, some of those voids, emotional voids, are filled with being a parent, right? And so that's a relationship. That's a relationship that they own, that they're able to take possession of. And oftentimes it comes at the expense of dealing with a jellyback Negro, in order to have it, right? And so that's
Jellyback.
Yeah, jellyback.
Are you serious about this? I love it, man. I love the fact that you're coming back and you're coming with the real, man. Shout out to the queen, Miss Nika Watkins, man. She's laying down some truth. And I told you, fair warning, she gonna come with it. I already knew it.
Yeah, but can I tell you though, you keep saying the house divided and the baby. Why are you trying to read my life out here? Like, why are you trying to put me on blast and how my life changed after
It's not. It touches so many of us. Mine as well.
Yeah, I felt like I grew up like overnight once my baby was born, and he didn't. Like life changed for me, and life didn't change for him. Maybe it was different because I carried her. But my life changed, and it was like I can't do the things that we once did, the things that we, build a relationship on aren't those things anymore. And I still feel like he never got there. It's like situations like, okay, well, you worked this week and your check was short. Oh, I can't do no money, my check was short. And I'm like, nigga, you still gotta eat. Like, I don't have the option of just saying, oh, well, I can't. Like, you still need to eat. Like, you still need growth. You still need to place to stay.
Yeah.
So he probably is jellyback, too.
some jellyback. So here's what happens, right? So from a parenting standpoint, and this is how the kids end up with the short end of the stick, right? And we end up creating these, fucking sociopaths running around here or whatnot because they lack the ability to morally reason. What happens is, man, because the relationships that these kids are born into, right, and they're born with these unique set of emotional needs, they're born with the need to attach to human beings. That's a need that's innate that these kids are born with, and there's an emotional exchange that happens, even with something that's like changing a diaper, giving a bottle, burping a baby, soothing them when they cry. There's an emotional exchange that happens. And if the man is not a part of that process, then that child's emotional needs are not completely being met. It can't be like, okay, yeah, mom, like sis said, she carried the baby and all these different things are in place. There's an emotional exchange, and it's not just an emotional exchange for the child, it's an emotional exchange for the man as well. And he'll rob himself of an opportunity to grow emotionally because of the dysfunction in the adult relationship.
Okay. So how do we turn that around?
You know what I'm saying? I wasn't expecting to get put on the spot. That's a good question, man. I think part of what I do, man, is what I'm hoping, because my private practice, right? And I have female clients. Of course, I see all types of people, but the focus of my practice, I built this practice for men and boys in and from Black and brown spaces based on my own experience as a young man growing up here, on the block in St. Louis or whatever have you. And that's a part of it, man. I think that we have to decide our decision as men, right? So here's the reality of the situation is there's a lot of problems that we didn't create that we have to take responsibility for, right? It wasn't our choice to leave the fucking house. We got forced out of the house, but we have to take responsibility for restoring ourselves to the house, right? So we have an adversary, right? And oftentimes our sisters are left to align themselves and sleep with the enemy because the family court system is the enemy to us, but ends up being an ally to women because it takes our place, right? This is the system that was created to take us out. And so it's also the system that prevents us from coming back in. Again, back in the day, women had to decide their decision. All right, we got these resources for you, but you got to get the man out. He got to go, or you can't get access to these resources. So we already know the history. We already know the systems that were created to systematically destroy the black family. In 1950, 85% of our homes had two parents in there, right? It's 2020 down to 2021. I don't know what that number is, but it's not 85%, and we pretty damn well know that. So as men, we have to decide our decision, right? Is it going to be our women? Is it going to be our families? Is it going to be our communities? Are we going to set the standard for educating? Are we going to set the standard for business? Are we going to set the standard for our emotional condition? What are we going to do? Because we set the standard with the NFL and the NBA and music and all this coonery and fuckery that's going on. But can we set the standard for these baseline things so that we can reestablish our communities and have Tulsa and Rosewood and all these different things? It doesn't mean that we're not a part of a larger society, but larger society exists whether we're a part of it or not. So we have to entitle and empower ourselves to do our own shit, have our own shit, and be okay with that, and not let society guilt us into thinking that we're not a part of larger culture because we prioritize our own shit.
Okay. 100. 100, man. I think this is really where we need to be at. I would encourage anybody listening right now, man, do not let this be the last time that you just do the online happy hour. Hit some likes, man. Hit some loves. I see the comments in there, Dennis. That's real talk, man. I feel you. My man Rob is talking about playing his music. We probably have to get to that eventually. But we are spitting some fire tonight. I want to give a shout out to Renee who chimed in and hit the comment bar. This is real spit. I'm digging it, man. A house divided right here on the online happy hour. You got your main man, Andy Brown. I got Miss Nika Watkins on the phone and in studio by way of St. Louis, Missouri. The one and only Go Mob, Blue Five, Etoya White, chiming in and giving us a good game on this one tonight. This is what I want to ask Nika to give me some insight on this one. And then if you can kind of piggyback on that, because we're going to let ladies go first.
Yes, sir.
But
yes, sir.
House divided. Nika, you still there?
Yes, sir.
I hope you got a little bit of time for me. When we talk about house divided, there's a big thing that really tends to break things up on the scale. We touched on it, but now it's time to go ahead and poke the bear. Okay. When that house gets divided and that money comes into play, we talk about how relationships and this money tends to push people back further and further and further and further apart. It could be the illusion of the money, or it really could be the status of us not really being able to afford what we say we can afford. But how does money play into a house being divided?
So am I to go first?
You absolutely, ladies first.
So it really depends. It's layers to the shit, to be honest. Now there are men I know that they misrepresent themselves, and then once you get to the point where it's a situation where you guys are getting married and you misrepresent yourself and you can't keep that shit up, then I know it becomes a problem because you created an expectation. Right? So that there's a divide there. I know you and I both know people who have separated or been divorced or certain stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then there is a situation where the guy is providing and maybe baby girl gets comfortable and doesn't, quote unquote, her part, which may be to clean the house or to take care of the kids because you don't really necessarily have to work, or maybe she's spending too much. Like, hey, you're not bringing in anything, like chill out with the spending because we can't afford it. And I think those types of things to be avoided if the right conversations are had in the beginning.
Right.
And then you have the reverse, where that P is the issue that we talked about. Mm-hmm. It doesn't stand out, and she's the provider, and he's not really doing anything. And I think society puts it in your head that the male's supposed to be the provider, he's supposed to do this, he's supposed to do that, and then that makes us look at him, in a different kind of way. He's not doing those things.
That's
then there's that, painful. And then there's the dividing that.
That's.
And again, I really feel like, right, because that's when we. I know you guys have talked about it, I'm sure. That's when we get in our bag and we start saying, this is no good, motherfucker. He's not doing shit. He ain't this, and you talking to him girlfriends talking shit about them, like, and that's not helpful to me, in my opinion, either. So whatever the situation is, though, I definitely believe that money factor can be a divider, especially if one person doesn't spend money or manage money the way the other person does. But again, I feel like those are things that could be avoided if it's talked about ahead of time. Like if you know baby girl likes to spend money and charge up a credit card and that's not your thing, like it should be some things in place, like we need to budget. You might need to spend a little allowance. Like, you know what I mean? It just, I don't know. Because I think relationships, if it's based off of real love, like true love, then that should not be the catalyst to be in a relationship with that person in the first place. So for it to be a deal breaker when we're all better off, that it wasn't built on the right thing. And I've made comments about it. I've called our sisters out about it. So don't think that I'm sitting here like, yeah, no, because it's quite a few people that I know that have married men for their bank account, and those men are very unattractive. And then they have these unattractive ass babies and put them on Facebook for us to look at.
Ah, that's what we're doing tonight? Oh, shit.
I really can't act like this is not happening. That's happening.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm talking about.
It's been said. It's been stated. And it has been recorded. This is real, man. E, what you got to say about this?
You know what, man? There's some, so we, you know, again, these conversations that I end up in different spaces, you know what I mean, where I hear, like, you know, people will say, and this is men and women, you know what I'm saying? A person got to have a certain, you know, like we have issues as men, we have issues emotionally or psychologically with women who make more money than us or whatever have you. And so we get this whole, like this loop that has to be broken, right? Because we issue these lame ass colleges not for everybody excuses and shit. And we make these exceptions to things that are pivotal to the growth of our communities and our families. So the loop that we end up in is we continue to feed to black boys that college is not for everybody and making excuses and giving bailouts and whatnot. And this is not to say that everybody needs to go to college and get a degree, whatever have you. But you know what? Until we have solid alternatives, what's the worst that could happen if you did it just because you fucking can, right? Do it just because you can and put yourself in position to be able to do some things differently, right? So what ends up happening is black women, black females are the highest or are outgaining everybody with regard to degree attainment, you know, the highest level of degree attainment in the country right now. So where does that put us, right? If we continue to give ourselves excuses to not do the shit, and women are obtaining degrees at a clip that far exceeds us by leaps and bounds, then how do we break the loop, right? So how do we get ourselves in a position where we can deal with women and not be intimidated by a woman who makes more than us because we're gonna feel inadequate or feel like she gonna pull some boss shit on us in the relationship because she make a few $2 more than we make? Does that mean that you can't be the head of the house or whatever have you? Or the women who come into this structure thinking that you can't let this man be the man because you make a few more dollars than he does. Like this is where we have to go back to agreement and the purpose of these particular relationships. Man, but y'all don't have me do this shit all night because I'm gonna have people questioning their lives in a minute, because this is the stuff that we have to do in building authentic and genuine friendships that'll sustain these relationships. Life is always going to push back against what we call love. It's the like that we build in solid relationships and being patient and building these things and not tossing kids on top of shit that hasn't even been created yet, so that we can legit fuck with each other. And you'll advocate and fight for somebody that you genuinely fuck with, that you like.
Yeah, you should. You should. When the house is divided, Nika's on here giving us some insight. My man Etoya's go ahead and dropping some real game on this one. This is the online happy hour. We're talking about a house divided. When you have the illusion of money, right? The comfortable feeling that you think it's going to bring you, people automatically assume that that's going to be your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's not. It is not your comfort zone. It's just your cushion to just give you the display of what needs to be good for you.
Because that met an emotional need, right? It met a social and emotional need, because if we're somebody, if we don't come from shit, right? When we get some shit, then we think we done made it somewhere, or we done something, and it only addresses that particular need. It addresses those surface area fickle things, and it doesn't deal with our emotional makeup as human beings.
No, it feels good for the moment. It feels good for the moment, but it doesn't necessarily sustain a level of happiness. It doesn't. It doesn't. Nika brought it up a little bit earlier. I want to look at it on the flip side. If the woman is making more money, right, and she's making her chips and flipping her coins all at the same time, and he's not, eventually, and I don't care what anybody says, the psyche of that man, if he is built to be a provider, he's going to try to get out there and hustle a little bit harder, because the emotional aspect of it says, not the comfort zone. The emotional aspect of it says, I need to do more. Mm-hmm. She may have already said, I got this. This isn't an issue. This isn't a worry. But psychologically, he's going to tell himself, I need to do more.
Right. So maybe it's not more though, right? Maybe it's just different. And different doesn't always have to be more.
My parents, my stepfather, God rest his soul, when he passed away, he was a master sergeant major in the U.S. Army. My mom retired as a lieutenant colonel, so she outranked him. And like literally, if he saw my mom outside of the house, he had to salute her. Like I was with my mom, and we bumped into my dad, and my dad couldn't look on his face, and he had to salute my mama. Like that's the house that I grew up in. And the weird thing is, I remember when they first got married, I think I was like 14 or 15, 13, 14, 15, like somewhere around in there. I was definitely in middle school, so I was like 14. Mm-hmm. So when they first got married, I remember the arguments because it was kind of like a power struggle for my mom. You talked about she is a officer in the Army. Right. So she used to, pull and race and all that stuff, and my dad was, not. So over time, I saw the progression in him, you know what I mean? But in the beginning, definitely, I knew it was a struggle. And I can't say she talked down on him or disrespected him, but it was definitely a level of respect that wasn't there at one point that became there. And I think it was really him, like, look, I'm a man, and what you're not going to do is come for me crazy.
Yeah.
And you gonna sit back, you gonna listen to what I have to say, and I'm gonna take you really deep. Because my mom came into the marriage with, 2 kids, and he came into the marriage with 2 kids as well. So it was like one of those situations. And then over time, I think because he came at her like a man, not disrespectful either. It wasn't like a heated conversation where I felt like, he was handling my mama or anything like that. So don't get me wrong, because it sounds awkward. But it was just like once he let her know, like I wasn't a belly back. My mom was and she became submissive, and it was like I see that you want to be better in your field, and because I went through the rankings and I'm here, like we help you. And it's just little stuff for how your uniform looks, how you shine your shoes, how you get talked to your superiors at work, and my dad actually became more successful by listening to her because she had already been there and he wanted it. You know what I mean? Okay. And even though he never got to the point where she was, but it was still like he was great at what he did.
Psychologically, man.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I've seen it, and I can honestly say since I grew up in a house like that, if I dated someone or I've dated someone who may not be as successful as I am or whatever, I still can see the hustle. And so that makes the world of a difference. Like where you are, when you start hustling 5 years ago to where you are now, like it's a big difference. And so then you go. But I'm not thinking about the potential though. Just what they are showing me as a person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are people who are good at what they do, and maybe the monetary thing isn't necessarily their thing. They just, like, if there's somebody, like, there's a lot of people who really out and they grow their community and help their community, support their community. There's not a lot of money in that. but they do it. So I can't, you know what I'm saying? And if I was to date that person, I don't even think that I'm looking for, you know what I mean? Like that thing. Like at some point, like you will know that this person is probably not going to be bringing in 6 figures or 7 figures or 8 figures or whatever that cap, salary cap that you may be working. So what do you do?
Well,
and at this point, I feel maybe because of, you know, who I was raised by my mom, I'm not expecting a dude to come to a table or give me or to support me or shower me with things that I can't shower. If I can't buy a Gucci bag, I'm really not like, I need him to be able to buy me a Gucci bag or a Birkin. Like, come on, yo, that's unrealistic expectations.
why?
Don't do that. Because I feel like you're putting pressure on someone to do something, to provide something for you that you can't provide for yourself.
Okay. Okay, you heard
If
ladies'
that's
mouth.
simple, if it was that simple, then you would be able to get out there and do it, right?
Here we go. A hush fell
Now,
over Jerusalem.
Granted, I do work in an entertainment industry where I may meet people that have a different level of, you know, funds or whatever than the average person. But come on, dude. Like, the average person, don't make that kind of money. Like, stop. And we have, with social media, makes it seem like this is, you know, reality, like tricking on chicks. This is what it's supposed to be like. You're supposed to do this, that, blah, blah, blah. Like, really? That's not reality. And y'all probably be upside down in your bills. Listen. Like, I want to be straight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be in a situation like where as a unit, if we want to go out to eat today, we can, or we want to take a vacation or stuff, we can. Like, I want to be comfortable and straight. Like, I don't want to feel like I got to stunt and then be not comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, or put that kind of pressure on someone. Like, if you got it, you got it.
You got it, you got it.
Yeah, but if you don't, if we don't, because we at that point we feel good, like, I don't want to do that.
We still argue doing Dutch.
On Facebook, like, no, man, who got time for that?
What'd you say, E?
I said we still arguing about who going Dutch and whatnot and what the proper protocol is for dates and shit. We still arguing about that. You know what I mean?
Money's not right.
I mean, but that's goals, right? You feel me? And that's like where understanding where you are understanding. So there's two things, right? There's and these are some of the things that I teach, you know, my clients and the people that I work with. You know, there's your emotional condition, and you can apply this to finances. You can apply this to spirituality, and a number of different things, right? You have a condition and you have a capacity. Your condition is where you are currently, right? That could be your financial condition. Since we're talking about money, I'll just use money as the framework, right? So your financial condition is the sum total of where you are now. It's the choices that you've made, that, you know, whatever career-wise, it's your income level, it's your savings, it's your investment, whatever it is, the habits that you have right now, your current credit score based on the habits that you are currently employing in your finances, right? Your capacity is your bandwidth for growth in this particular area, right? Your ability to learn different things and apply different things, learn different skills or whatever have you. And we come into relationships, man, and we don't get that stuff on the table early enough. So again, we can form those agreements with our mate and our partner so that we can project out and understand our bandwidth for growth to be able to obtain those things. And we have such unrealistic views sometimes, like 6 figures is this magical, mythical thing that creates happiness. That ain't shit. That don't mean nothing if you don't have any of it left after you get finished, because you don't have goals and you don't have discipline and you don't have an approach to dealing with your finances with your partner that creates growth. So if you got 2 people that come together and they're teachers, let's say they make $45,000, $50,000 a year, they got $100,000 combined household income, and they have goals, right? They're taking care of debt, they're You can do everything that sis just said. You can go out to eat, you can go on vacation, you could save money, you can do all these different things when you just simply plan appropriately and set some goals.
Okay, that's real. We don't do it enough. So if the house is divided, thank you for making that comment. If the house is divided, does it really benefit to bring it together? And if so, what can we do? We just got a few minutes left in the show tonight, but what are some things that we need to see done to bring this thing together? If we want to say that we need to, united we stand, where are we going to be at? What does that look like? Ladies first. Nika?
It depends on the situation. Some situations aren't even worth it. It's not worth the headache and the drama that goes along with it. That's real. Like, if you have a baby with somebody that doesn't necessarily make it, something that's salvageable or worth you putting it together.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like it just depends on you and that person and how much you're willing to give. And if it's like, if one is willing to, give in and try to make it work, and the other one isn't, or the other one isn't putting in as much energy into it, then it's not worth it. Because it's something, what they call it, lopsided love.
Yeah.
And, that's not healthy.
Okay.
That's not healthy at all.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So I think knowing when to walk away and to let it go is key when we're talking about things like that. And it's just, I think, for a person to know their deal breakers, like that is like the main thing I would say. Like, know your deal breakers, know things, know what you can't deal with, and that will help you not get into those situations in the first place.
Real talk. Thank you, Nika, on that one.
Did I make that clear? Was that clear?
Yes.
Because I feel like I was rambling.
No, did that make sense to you?
It did, absolutely. What she's saying is, when you got to understand your capacity to deal with a jellyback Negro, is ultimately what this comes down to, right? So you see what I'm trying to tell you? So here's the thing, man. Like, being unequally yoked is being unequally yoked. However you want to spin that, if you want to put the religious connotation on it or whatever have you, being unequally yoked is unequally yoked. And if you have somebody that, from an education standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint, financial standpoint, you got to decide your decision about what you're willing to compromise, right? And if you and there's certain things like the 80-20 rule, right? The person's not going to have everything that you want them to come theoretically come to the table with or whatever have you. But in the growth of that relationship, you understand their bandwidth to grow in certain areas. Then you got to decide your decision. You got to prioritize and decide your decision about what you're willing to compromise or work with or work through, right? Not necessarily work with, but work through it for the growth of that relationship, man. And we have to be patient enough with ourselves, not get sped up, biological clocks and all these other different type of things that take place. We have to be patient enough to allow the relationships to grow organically, man, and give ourselves grace in figuring these things out, right? And we get sex happens and all these things that change the course of the relationship from an emotional standpoint, and it distracts us from what really is important in establishing the relationships, man, and that's to make them work long term. Like I said, man, don't give yourself to the commitment of raising a child, and you can't give yourself to the commitment of maintaining and sustaining the relationship itself.
Boy, mouthful. Is she clapping?
I gave you a standing ovation for that.
Those are your hands, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I don't see top on handstands anymore, man. Well,
I know you said the Hip Hop Awards on tonight. I know we got lots of stuff going on the television and too. I definitely want to thank Nika for making time. I know she has a very busy schedule, but thank you. Sweetheart, you are always welcome on this platform. Please don't let this be the last time we hear from you. And thank you so much for chiming in and giving us some flavor, especially the way you bring it. I love it. I appreciate it. And it's always and dearly, truly a part of this platform. Thank you so much. E, what about you, my man? Where can the people find you? If they're not in St. Louis, if they're all across the world, if they got a cell signal, and then whether they're 5G, 4G, 2G, or no G, but need to know more about you, what's going on with you, man? Talk to me about it.
Yeah, AOL, dial up, it don't matter what you're still doing. If you can access the internet, man, you can find me. Look me up by name on Facebook. My profile is public, man. I got a couple spaces left on the friends list. Come through and pull on up, man. I drop jewels on a regular basis on my page and on my business page as well, which is also by name for my therapy practice, man. If there's not a space left and I haven't kicked any people off the island who don't need to be there, at least follow me so you can get a hold of the content that I put out. My Instagram page for my store is Thera_tees. ShopTheraTees.com. Get out there and get you a hoodie, man. Get you a t-shirt, a mug, something, man. Support the movement. We're trying to bring these non-imposing conversations for mental and emotional wellness to men and boys in and from black and brown spaces. We're doing it big. My personal website is EtoyaWhite.com. Coaching at EtoyaWhite.com. Hit me up, man. Come get these jewels. You dig?
Right on. I'm definitely gonna support, man. And matter of fact, I'm purchasing one tonight so I can get it. It's cold up here, man.
Yeah, go and get your hoodie, man. Go and get your stuff right, bro.
I'm not feeling this chill. But I am excited, man. I definitely want to thank everybody for making some time. The comments, the calls, the text messages. Folks, you make the show what it is. I hope you got some good insight about this particular topic tonight. And if nothing else, please do us a favor. Tell about 3 more people to tune in with you on Thursday, because I come with you twice a week now on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, giving you some good insight. I want to say thank you to my family for always being here. We're going to hit you with another wonderful show. Y'all remember Kanye West?
Yeah.
Okay.
The artist formerly known as
Kanye West?
Formerly know, yeah.
Well, he's not going to be here on Thursday, but we will have somebody that's going to be enlightening us with some true, hardcore, in your mouth facts. And that's how we do it. So on behalf of my family, on behalf of my frat, on behalf of my friends, I want to say good night. Keep it real, keep it light, keep it 100, and keep the party going. It's your main man, Andy Brown, signing off on the Online Happy Hour right here on the online platform. Let's get it.
Let's talk about it.